You know, I saw you at SEC Media Days, and you stepped up on the podium, and you were asked the first question, and you thought for a second, and then you took a deep breath, and then you went, "Things are pretty good in Gainesville. Things are pretty good at the University of Florida." What was your thought process that was going to be your first answer?
Well, you know, probably one of the things having to kind of reflect over a year of, you know, kind of being here in the organization and the things we're building and the things we continue to build, things are really good. And, you know, it's been kind of one of those deals where, I don't know, it's hard to say, but I'm not sure a lot of people are expecting much of the Gators. And maybe I'm kind of maybe off base. Maybe some people know a lot more than I know, which is obvious. But I like this team, and I like where we're at. And you know, right now the University of Florida is in great position.
You said that over there in Alabama that you like this team, and I don't think people quite get that a lot of times. That, you know, you have a relationship with every year's team that can be very different.
Sure.
But you've brought a lot of these guys in. There's a thread in their personality that you like now. I mean, that's something that can be somewhat unique, right?
Yeah, it is. And, you know, anytime there's transition and anytime there's change, it's hard. It's hard on everybody because things are different. Not to say they're better, not to say they're worse. They're just different. And it's human nature to kind of step back when there's change. We had a lot of guys embrace the change, and I think our record early in the year and what we were able to accomplish, going to Atlanta, playing in the SEC championship game, I think that's the proof in the pudding there.
Right.
Now with that, as we moved forward, once we got done with the season, got back to our RAMU program as we kind of went forward, we had a lot of guys that became now comfortable and understand the expectations of what we need to do. And so when I talk about liking this team, I like the dynamics of the locker room. You know, I really like the way the older guys have embraced the younger guys and starting to set a new way of doing things. And that's probably where that came from.
I mean, a friend of mine wrote a book, in fact, called "You Win in the Locker Room First."
Yeah.
And you really do.
I truly believe that.
You've got to have the right guys in there, not just in total, but the leaders have to fully embrace the message that you're putting out to the whole team.
You know, there is. And you know, the interesting thing, you know, there's the, as you know and you've read about, you know, kind of the 10-80-10 rule of any organization. Within the locker room, you know, you got 10 guys you don't got to worry about. I mean,
Right.
And yet, there's 10 guys we all want to hang out with because there isn't any problem with
no
doing
issues
anything,
there.
right?
Right.
Now you got 80 that are sitting in there that are looking. Are they going to join the 10? Or are they going to join that 10 that, you know, what we hope to do is make you irrelevant? I think the key there is when you're in an organization, people who want to become relevant, you know what, they're the ones that you want to make sure that you embrace and not allow them to become part of the irrelevant. That, you know, we spend a lot of time on that bottom 10. Doesn't matter what business we're in, and yet sometimes that bottom 10 maybe just go ahead and run away.
Right,
you know?
that's right.
So let's help them, but if they choose to join part of that 80, we move forward, we got a chance to be successful.
Famous baseball manager once said, you know, they said, "What's your secret to success?" And he said, "I try to keep the 20 guys, there's 5 guys I don't worry about, and I try to keep those 15 guys who are undecided away from the 10 guys that hate me."
That's all part of the gig, right? And but you know, it's interesting. I got to tell you, I'm excited for the year to begin. I'm excited to see where this team is. You know, you have an idea, you have a thought, and yet you really don't know until you get into the meat of it.
Yeah.
And that's always the fun part of the beginning, because there is no limit, but you may have limited yourself based on what you have already done.
So
we're going to find that out.
So how do you manage the expectations? I mean, you had such great success early in the year. You didn't finish the way that you or your team wanted to.
No.
So is it easier to manage the expectations now because you didn't have the success at the end of the year that you wanted?
You know, here's the way I kind of look at it is you take history, you take the past to learn from. And hopefully don't fall into some of the ruts that history has said, you know, let's not do it this way.
Right.
And as a teacher, that's what we try to do moving forward. And, you know, everything changes. I mean, every day changes. Every team changes. Now, within the dynamics of that group, of that organization, what we'll try to do is say, look, here's what happened when we did this. So let's not do that again. And that's kind of the interesting way that we kind of think about it.
Any surprises in your first year? I mean, you've been a head coach, you've coached in the Southeastern Conference, but, you know, like Bear Bryant used to say, we hope those people at Florida don't wake up because when they do, we're all in trouble. Well, clearly in 1990, they started to wake up.
That's right, and thanks to Coach Spurrier and what he was able to do.
Exactly. So any surprises in your first year that, wow, this is better or not as good as I thought?
You know, I probably, you know, just on a personal level, in fact, I get this quite a bit from people. When are you going to actually stop and smell the roses and not continually look what we've got to do to get better? You know, I will say this. We played in the swamp when I was at another school in the SEC. I knew the environment was pretty cool. But when you're the home team in the environment of that swamp, unbelievable. Right. And the surreal experience when you play at home and stand out under those goalposts before the Gators hit the field. Man. That's something I wasn't prepared for, and I'd be lying if I said, you know, my emotions didn't kind of hit a high right there.
Yeah, you said you coached at another school in the Southeastern Conference. What did you learn there? What did you learn at Colorado State that you really have leaned on here quickly?
You know, I've been really fortunate. I mean, growing up in Montana as I did, I you know, being a 1AA player and coach for 15 years, never really thought, you know, you just go do your job, right?
Right.
And if somebody takes notice, well, that's a good thing. And, you know, never been a self-promoter or any of that kind of stuff. And yet, over the years, I've been with some great head coaches. And, you know, I think the time at Alabama was something that, I would have never thought, you know, I'd be walking by Bear Bryant's statue.
Right. Really, I'm a coach at Alabama?
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's kind of,
right.
And yet, I learned so many ways from an organizational standpoint, not the X's and O's standpoint. I'm talking about the organizational structure of what it takes to run a successful team, business, whatever you want to call it, from one of the masters. And, you know, the piece of advice he gave me coming in, something I hold on to is, hey, Mac, just work hard and be complete in what you do.
Exactly.
No stone unturned. Pretty simple. I think I can do that.
Start to finish.
Yeah, and then on the way out the door, night before the national championship game in which we're getting ready to play LSU, knowing I was leaving right after the game to go to my new job, we had a chance to visit, and he just said, look, thanks, but know this, would you move forward? You can't be me. You can't be Coach Smith. You can't be Coach Hill. You can't be Coach Zorns. You've got to be Coach Mack. So take what you've learned, but make it your own. And I thought, that is a great piece piece of advice. And, you know, I made some mistakes at Colorado State, and yet we all make mistakes in our lives. And they weren't coach-killing mistakes, but they were things that you sit back and review and say, well, that was really stupid.
Right.
But there again, learn from history. And the experience I was given there in sitting in the head coach's seat, where you have to worry about not just the offense or not just the defense, but rather everything that goes into it. How does it help the whole? That's probably what I got out of that before coming here.
Part of being the head coach is a difficult job in disciplining a very large group of guys from 17 to 22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
Did you develop a philosophy on, you know, every case is different, or is every case the same, or how do you look at that?
You know, it's interesting because, you know, I come from a pretty disciplined background growing up. You know, I kind of looked at this as I kind of went along, that everybody's fingerprints are different. It's an identifiable mark that only you have, only I have. And yet, we want to treat everybody the same. Each case is different. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is not the set of rules, but the set of rules that will help you in life. And that's what I try to teach these guys as much as anything. Are things, snippets, things they can carry with them as they become fathers, as they become you know, employed by a company, as they become people in a community. It's one rule, just do what's right. Now, I don't think anybody out there has spent their life and only done the right thing. All right? I don't care who you are.
Yeah, I got kids.
Yeah, and you know, I look in the mirror, right?
Right.
I get it.
Right.
But at the same time, what did I learn and what lesson did I learn from the choices we make? You know, I often talk to our guys about, look, we live in America, the greatest place there is, because we have freedom of choice. We have freedom of choice to do whatever we want to do. But at the end of the day, we don't have freedom of consequence. So in simply saying do what's right, yeah, we can downplay the simplicity of that. But if you look hard in your actions, and ultimately your actions speak so loudly I can't hear what you say, that's when it comes down to the non-freedom of consequence. And there's consequences in every one of our actions, and our players are no different.
When you came here, you were brought in here as an offensive coach?
No, I was defense last year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know that. You're only taking credit for defense last year. That's right. But, and so, you know, quarterback may be the most important position in sports. Maybe that starting pitcher, I don't know. But quarterback, clearly the most important position in football. Touches the ball on every offensive play. Yeah. What's it take? Because you've worked with some really good quarterbacks over your career. What's it take for somebody to become Jim McElwain's starting quarterback?
Well, you know, there again, I kind of study the guys who have been great at the position, be it at the college level or the pro level. And there's one common thread I see in the guys. I think I've been really fortunate. I want to say that, you know, 9 of the last quarterbacks I've had have played in the National Football League. Now, they're not in the Hall of Fame,
right?
But they played.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
That's
right?
Something special.
So the one thing each one of those guys have had, and the one thing the great ones have, isn't necessarily a rocket arm, isn't necessarily, you know, unbelievable feat. They have an intangible that the guys around them play better when they're in the game.
Mm-hmm.
They elevate the people around them in a positive way. And people want to get behind them. That's the one thing I've seen. So as you look at the position, obviously there's tangible needs to be successful at any position you play. There's criteria that help you be successful at whatever thing you do in life, right? There's a set of criteria. But one of the ones at quarterback, I truly believe, is how do you affect the people around you in a positive, uplifting, and performance-laden way. And to me, that's what makes a great quarterback.
Well, you can tell, you feel it, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it, you can feel it when you're in the huddle, you know, between one guy. I mean, you can tell right away.
You know.
Yeah, you know it.
It's not that tough.
It's almost that it factor.
You know, yeah,
right?
And you look at the quarterback thing, and I just look around this room. You know, Coach Spurrier, look at Danny Werfel, look at the great quarterbacks that have played here, Tim Tebow. You know, those are all Heisman guys, right? Well, obviously pretty decent.
Right.
But at the same time, the players around them elevated their play because of who they were. And there's a string of great quarterbacks that have come through here at the University of Florida, as you know.
Yep.
You know, I don't know where a lot of places you can go on campus and see 3 statues of
3
former Gator
quarterbacks.
quarterbacks.
That's right.
That, you know, carry this thing around called the Heisman, right?
Just a couple of other things real quick. Matt came over and saw you at Trinity Christian when you did that satellite camp.
Yeah.
And you really seemed to really enjoy yourself at those things. Seeing a lot of different people, a lot of different kids, you know, kids of all skill levels, you know, but all have that want to be there. You really seem to enjoy that.
You know, I'm probably screwed up, but I actually like people. You know, I ultimately, it comes from probably wanting the best for everybody around you. But in a camp setting like that, being able to instruct and teach the skills of the game, and if you can just give something that's going to help someone be successful, not go on to college, I'm talking about helping their team be successful. That to me is what it's really, shoot, that's life. You know, that anytime we can do that, that's a lot of fun. And you're right, I enjoy that. You know, I'm not sitting behind a desk. I'm not looking at a budget. I'm not, you know, I'm out there doing what I believe I was here to do, and that's teach. Right.
You've mentioned that a few times. One of my favorite things about leadership is talking about servant leadership, and yours is more is along those lines, teaching leadership. That if you can make people better, particularly people who want to be better, then that's where you're at.
I think so, and finding what it is that makes someone click. It's going back to the fingerprint analogy. Each one of us learn differently. Each one of us react to situations differently. I love trying to figure out the psychological piece of how to help each individual become as good as they can or want to be, as you just said. And you know, I got to tell you, I'm just blessed to be able to be doing it at a place like the University of Florida.
Right.
I mean, this is pretty incredible.
When I speak at banquets, I say the one thread that is run through all the greats that I've ever met, from the 4-year-old rhythmic gymnast to the 19-year NFL veteran, is they want to know how good they can be.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the scoreboard or whether I beat that guy. Or they want to know how good can I be at this. And when you find people like that, I mean, to me, that's the best part.
You know, the year I spent coaching in the National Football League, there was one common thread. A player could tell if you could help him.
Right?
And if you could help him, he's going to do anything.
He's all in, right?
And they can see right through it. The ones that they say, look, I'm not going to get anything out of this, guess what? You're not going to get anything out of them.
Jim, I want to ask you one specific question about Jared Davis, who's come back.
Yeah.
You know, he's from Camden County, which is in our viewing area,
Sure.
right there. You know, you get a guy like that who wants to be a part of this in such an important time of his life. He's one of those guys you can lean on in the locker room and on the field as well.
Right. You know, Jared, and I'm going to say Marcus, you know, May, who also chose to come back his senior year. And look, where they would have gotten drafted, I don't know, but it would have been high. And yet their commitment to their moms about getting their degree, all right? Not that they wouldn't go and come back, but to me, that's something special. That's a, you know, that's a commitment. But more so, their commitment to come back and get a little better, and Jared coming back and being that true leader, the guy that everyone can see through his actions. This guy's real. And look what he did to come back and help the Gators. I can't say enough about it. And the way he approaches the day, you know, that's a rare quality, because we all want to look to the first game, or we want to look to the rivalry game, or we want to think about tomorrow. But we realize if we don't take care of today, if we don't take care of the now, we don't have a chance to be successful tomorrow. Now that takes discipline, and that's the one thing Jared Davis has.
There's three phases. There's the idea, there's the execution, but there's this giant preparation in the middle that a lot of people want to skip over.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I mean, if we all could, man,
would be
we'd
great.
do it,
That's right. Well, I said, when Florida went looking for a coach, I said, if you took all the qualities that Florida needs and you put them in a test tube, you shake them up, and you pour it on the table, Jim McElwain's going to fall out.
Wow.
And you proved me right.
Wow.
So, congratulations.
I got to tell you that. Have you got that test tube?
Thank you. I really
awesome.
appreciate it.
All right.
Really good stuff.